happy, or at the very least, Vene didn't feel happy with his performance moving into it, or moving past that game. So hopefully for Lightside, now that we are here into picks and bans, they are feeling more confident and they will show a little more of a proactive side, because I think that was definitely the bigger issue even in their win, was it felt like both teams are super inactive, and it just came down to Lightside making 2 to 3 more proactive plays, but they were spaced out so far apart that it still felt like Lightside are being inactive in that game. As rolling through the bans, banning away the Renata and the Karma from Nativz, definitely not such a bad idea. Of course, seeing Svene's Akshan be removed away has been a pretty consistent ban now for quite a few weeks, and the Zeri from red side, no strange to that, as the Aphelos gets taken off the board, which should just about force Nativz to remove away that Jinx.
You'd imagine so, unless they want to be going in a completely different direction, but that would put a lot of the bans that Jinx taken away. So we've got some marksmen available on the table. It's going to be the Hecarim, really high priority pickup in recency, going to be locked in for Zvictor, and this is going to give a lot of engage, a bit of tankiness, and some damage in the jungle. Yeah,
no, we've seen this huge rise of priority for Hecarim in the last couple of weeks, and definitely very warranted. Still a very strong champion. Even, I mean, doesn't even really depend on what build you go. It's such a versatile champion in terms of the build pass, the rune optimizations as well. You can just kind of look at the enemy team and go, okay, this game I'm going, you know, Conqueror Triforce, or this game I'm going Phase Rush, Chem Tank, because I need to be the engaged tank. I need to dive and disrupt, as opposed to sort of dive and maybe assassinate with some of those more AD heavy builds. But Thresh will be the rotation in response from Nativz, and then also this Graves, which of course could be in the hands of Lundqvist, could be in the hands of Snille. Lundqvist had a pretty good showing on it last week, so we'll see whether he can keep that one up, as Lightside now have the opportunity to respond to the support. Slarn, of course, can pick up their AD. One thing, of course, could see Sadie lean onto something like that Jhin, now that, of course, the Jinx and the Aphelios are taken off the table. But this is also a pick that's been showing its head a lot more recently, these are, especially with the lethality builds that typically come into effect. So we'll see whether or not it gets paired with the Rakan, or whether we see something a little more standard away from that, perhaps like the Nautilus, to kind of try and help out with that. But no, I think this Hecarim plus the Rakan get so much dive, so much flexibility of the engages, that I think it makes too much sense to not go.
And I think you're looking at Nativz to pick their marksman here, just because of the bans that have already gone in that direction. It will be so easy to squeeze out the role even further. You get rid of like Varus or Ezreal or Caitlyn, and suddenly you're having to go on to something that Yoppa, very good player, might not be as comfortable on as trained on, but they're actually going to go towards the Silas instead. So a little bit more flexibility, tends to go into the mid lane, could be seen in the other solo lane as well. But now Nativz have opened themselves up. Maybe they're happy to see stuff banned against the marksman, because they know, look, we know Yoppa's really good. Veigar taken off the table.
Yeah, Veigar taken off the table. I'm really curious about what Nativz are going to draft in the bottom lane here, because what I expect from Lightside is, I was actually going to say bottom lane ban. So with this Gangplank, they're saying we're not necessarily too sold that this Graves will be going up to Lundqvist, or maybe they're just worried that they don't want to necessarily give it over in case we see Snille on the Graves instead. But the issue here is that you probably do at the very least want to take away the Jhin, just so you can have that sort of still A+-ish tier AD carry removed from the table, so Yoppa can't lean on it. And I think it will definitely trim down the champion pool quite a bit, because Yoppa, when you think about all the champions that are in this game, banned or picked, most of it is his pool. So he's going to need something below that tier. But if they do want to just go for another top lane ban, I suppose they can, if they're looking for more dive. But right now, I think Nativz pretty comfortable with the Rise and the Veigar bans. The Silas has pretty strong, almost a steal away at the moment. What will Lightside choose to go for here? Because top lane ban is definitely a very interesting path to me. And the double commitment just says, we don't think that this Graves is going top, which, I don't know. We'll have to see what Nativz want to do about it. Because now what I expect is that Yoppa should just go for the Jhin to get that sort of, well, the highest tier AD carry still up and available. Yeah. You have a bunch of setup between you and Thresh. Though they might not necessarily synergize well with each other, you can still play off of all that range. But speaking of setup, you can still also go towards the Varus, and that also makes a whole bunch of sense. At least to me, though, I will say playing Varus into the likes of the Featherstorm, it can be a little bit irritating, right? You try for the Chains of Corruption onto the Xayah, she just trades ultimates. Your ultimate is on a much shorter cooldown, so you're probably still happy taking that trade. But still trying to find those initial picks can be very difficult. But the laning phase should just be fine for Nativz. And Lightside hold a couple of champions. The Vex would have definitely been a very interesting option, just to fully lean into that dive theme that they were going for with this draft so far. But instead, they go for the Syndra a little more stable in that mid lane, and now top lane can be just about anything that Svenne feels comfortable going into what he sees with the Nativz draft.
Yeah, could be going into Graves, could be going into something different, but looks like the Renekton is a good choice for him. He likes to be aggressive in those early levels. Also thinking about the Shen a little bit. Ashley will lock that one in, wants to be able to get around the map and give that global presence, supporting the team around where he can, and also allows them to get out of lane a little bit quicker because, of course, with the teleport changes, Shen's one of the only champions that can make proactive global plays from the top lane pre-level 14 nowadays. So might be looking in that direction. But now it's a case of what will Lundqvist go? Will he go the Graves? Will he go for something else? They're hovering the Tryndamere at the moment. They could, of course, put that Graves down into the hands of Snille, and it's going to be the Gragas. So it is a double flex, but I imagine that's more of a Lundqvist pick.
Yeah, I also imagine that's more of a Lundqvist pick. I will say, though, I still feel like, you know, the opportunity there for Lightside to ban away the Jhin plus the Varus was kind of smiling in your face. I understand if you're planning to run the Shen blind because you're not so, certain on where the Graves will end up, then going for the Gangplank and the Narbans does make sense.
Yeah.
But it feels like a bit of a waste when you could have maybe gone for the Shen blind anyway. You deal with the Saki matchup, but then you have a much weaker bottom lane to have to play against. We'll see whether or not Nativz can use the fact that they still now got such a strong AD carry support matchup into that Xayah Rakan, and whether or not Lightside can capitalize still on the bottom lane. When I expect now the sort of priority in the skirmishing will be a little bit closer towards Nativ's favor, though I'm not entirely sure whether I'll say it's entirely Nativz or entirely Lightside. I think Lethality Xayah has a lot more of a niche strength to it in lane compared to on hit, as we are loading into game right now, and two very interesting comps to say the least.
Yeah, two compositions where, again, we've got a sprinkler or something a little bit different across both, but nothing that strikes me as being super off the wall and super weird. As you mentioned, having the Varus is allowing them to play from range in the bot side. Joppa, we know how good he can be on this champion. He's got that utility as well with the ultimate. So whether they're going to rue the day that they didn't squeeze that pool, or whether they just thought, hey, Joppa's really good. We're gonna, if we can get rid of the Varus, we can get rid of the Jhin. He can just go onto the Caitlyn and do Joppa thing.
Yeah.
Or he can look at something else where, yeah, he might not be on the same level of comfort necessarily, but if they're still thinking this guy's still going to be a threat, let's just take away the top side, get a good matchup for Svenne, who we know how much work he can do. And hey, if the Shen gets online, he's going to be able to take that advantage around the map, be able to get down to that bot side to make Joppa pay for playing what is quite an immobile matchup into Xayah Rakan, where there's engage there, there's lockup there, with a Shen getting involved. That becomes a much easier proposition.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think with the amount of dive that is there, Thresh isn't exactly going to be able to keep a Varus safe, no matter how hard that the Thresh tries, just because, I mean, Hecarim just presses his R key, simple as that, sets up for touch. It becomes very, very difficult if a lantern doesn't come out immediately and Joppa's able to click it. But we are here on to Summoner's Rift, and like you say, Svenne can definitely take over this matchup. There is potential for it, and has gone for the Ignite as opposed to the Teleport. It's definitely the more aggressive option. And we do see come out from Shen players every now and again. As that sweeper should just about clip that ward, so everyone should share XP. And even when it's shared between 4 people, I'm pretty sure it still gives the ability to have level 2 on the first wave for 5p. And Lightside, a very nice presence of mind to call Svenne down, just on the off chance that there was a late invade to come in from Snille, Joppa, and Clocks. Definitely a very strong level 1 trio, but they didn't actually opt for it. But now one thing I'm curious about is, it did take a very long time for Svenne to get up to that top wave. I think he probably did get all of the XP, as we got a quick glimpse of Snille going over across to the blue buff, but it's been spotted out by an early ward from Lightside, so good preparation. The blue buff will still likely be lost on the Lightside end, so what will they do in response? Because they could even look to go for the Grump here in this instance.
I imagine you're probably going to see Spectre clearing out those Raptors and doing the same thing. He's got the information, knowing where Graves is and saying, look, you're in my topside jungle, looks like we're doing verticals as the Descendants. It's a little bit short this time around, not going to be able to catch out Xayah, but yeah, you can already see Spectre is... He's thinking about it. He's going to roll on through, grab himself the blue buff. He's a little bit slower on the call just because Graves went immediately from buff to buff. Didn't hit the third, though, so didn't hit the true transcendence that we'd expect to see from junglers at the very highest level. But he's going to be able to grab the Gromp as well, which is always nice to see. With splitting up the map in this way, with Graves now moving back into his own jungle, Are we going to see Snille looking for plays around top side with Hecarim looking for plays around bot side?
There's definitely room for it, but Snille came and got what he was looking for and could very easily cross into the bottom side after chickens, where he has full priority from the Nativz bottom side. So we'll see. The only issue is there's no priority in the mid lane. Doesn't seem like it's going to amount to anything because your bottom clocks will actually yield this as the fog of war pressure from Pete on top of Victor definitely being in their blue side jungle means that they go for a bit of a retreat, more defensive positioning. I think it does make sense, and Snille will yield that potential contest on the bottom side in favor of going back for that top side crab and moving back in to pick up Victor's wolves. So we're in a bit of a match split situation, which we don't, it feels like in 2022, see too frequently. And it will be a little bit difficult to pilot out, I would say, more aptly, to be honest, for Nativz, if anything. And they are the ones that have opted into this, because I would have definitely said if you're Nativz, if you're going for a map split, like Lightside tried to predict at level 1, you try and map split the bottom side, play strong side bot. But right now, it's Victor, full control of the bottom side. We'll see whether or not Nativz can look to break a map split that they initiated.
And that's the thing, because they made the call, they made the decision, whether that's just team-based or just Snille on the Graves, that they were going to take control of that top side, get the wards down. They've got plenty of vision up there now, so it's going to become very hard for Victor to play around it if he decides to. But see, at the moment, the stun's coming on through into Ryle, who's going to be able to dash away, has flash available, needs to be a little bit careful because the damage is big and will flash away in the end. Ignite rolls, but not below 100 health. Fatty P survives as well. So it would just be trading some resources in the mid lane.
Yeah, really small thing there, but Victor didn't pop his W when he went in. And I think that meant that he didn't proc phase rush, so it meant that he couldn't catch up to relay there. A very small minor thing, but it results in the Silas walking away from that gank. Did, however, blow his flash. Fatty P blew 2 summoners of his own, though, flash and the ignite, but the teleport should probably be used in exchange. So that mid lane wave looks pretty neutral, so maybe he doesn't have to use it. We'll see whether or not it is the case. No, it's actually still pushing away, so I expect he will teleport back. Yeah. As now Nativz, I was going to say starting up with Dragon Snille is actually looking for a pretty creative pathing into the bottom side. And whilst Victor's here, he would be definitely late to respond.
That he's going to be dragged on back. A lot of damage going through already. And Graves turning up. Should secure first blood. Will go on to Joppa. They're looking towards touch as well, but he's going to be able to dive away onto Victor, who came in for the assist. Protection of Rakam. Zaya falls. And first blood goes to Nativz.
Yeah, and that's just really nice pathing from Snille over the back of the Dragon Pit wall. Knows that there's likely a ward from Lightside in the river. Dodges out on the tri-bush. Unfortunately, Victor wasn't quite there. And it means there is no 3v3 that breaks out. Sadie goes down. The initial setup really clean there from Nativz as a whole. And they reap their benefits. Won't be a Dragon start up, but they will look for a quick reset. And you expect maybe in the next couple of minutes they'll go for it if they feel like the Dragon is the priority that they want to play for.
Hasn't been touched just yet. As you mentioned, we thought the Grace was maybe going towards it, but decides to hunt larger game, picking up the first blood for the marksman. And Joppa, one of those players that we know, giving him an inch, he'll take a mile. And could be very, very scary on this forest as he heads towards level 6. On the top side, we haven't really checked in with them too much. A decent lead from Lundqvist, but Svene will be able to even it out quite well with this wave. He's just keeping it away from tower to make sure that it's a little bit slower getting taken down. But for Lightside, maybe not reacting in the best way to the map split so far, having gone a little bit down. But that being said, there's still plenty of time in this game to get back into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've not necessarily reacted too well to it. I think there's just not been too much proactivity around the bottom lane from their end, which, to be fair, things like minute, sort of second by second wave state and just how they feel about where the position of maybe Snille is, or things like the potential for Lundqvist to get a teleport down before Svene had access to that standing Naiad. And now that they do have access to the Shen helmet, you could expect slightly more aggressive plays down towards the bottom side, as that becomes a slightly more easier to execute option. As Nativz, they're definitely eyeing up potential mid lane play. Clock just doing a great job of shadowing around the river, and will get spotted out though. could actually get engaged on. No flash of remember.
Will be engaged. I'm gonna get caught out. Ultimate is stolen away by the Silas, but they've already lost one. The damage coming through is pretty big though, and now we're gonna see Vanity trying to get away, but Ra's getting the damage down, looking towards Touch, who has to leap and dance away, shot down by Graves as Victor rides out, trying to get as much distance between himself as he can, but it won't matter with the flash. Double kill goes over to Snille. Excellent response from Nativz.
Yeah, really good response from Nativz. Even though Clocks is the one that gets caught out at the start of that play, it doesn't quite matter, and it looks like Sadie even got 1v1 killed by Yoppa there. I think level difference means that Yoppa had level 6. Seems like it was just a flash ultimate, and now there's a 2-level difference between the AD carries. Massive sequence of play there for Nativz. Now they will even turn it into a dragon, so that's, what, 4 kills across the map plus a dragon? Huge turn. Huge swing for Nativz. Now Lightside, they're gonna have to do something pretty monumental to try and bring back some of that momentum, because that was a lot of resources to lose.
And it was a really nicely played fight as well. You could see how much the turnaround coming in from Ral is just powerful on Silas. Able to grab that ultimate away, get a lot of damage on himself, and just has that extra bulk and that extra survivability. Let's have another look at this play, because initially it looks pretty good for Lightside, but then things start going wrong.
Yeah, so they blow quite a lot onto Clocks, and I think that's the biggest issue. They've used 2 ultimates on the support. The ultimate up here does get blown from Lightside as well, so it didn't even catch that. Stand United was used, and all this time as well, Nativz, Snille's actually the level down too. Doesn't have the collateral damage to layer into all of those people that were clumped up, and this is just a clean solo kill by Yoppa. Flash blown early. Didn't quite catch whether or not perhaps the flash came out after from Sedi, after being rooted by the Chains of Corruption or before. Either way, it doesn't matter. Got to run down either way. No, it seems like Lightside, they're actually just on the Herald. They do have mid lane priority, and that's been one thing that's been very constant about this early game so far. As you'd expect, Syndra priority over the Silas. There hasn't been too much setup given from Riley when he's had other members around that mid lane just yet, in terms of the gank attempts directly onto the Syndra. That will net Lightside the Herald. So we'll see where they actually get to drop this Herald as a plate goes down on the bottom side and waves are actually forced. So what does Yoppa do here exactly? Thank you, Reed. Wasn't exactly a request, but can always appreciate. Actually, it looks like beforehand. Oh, right. So Yoppa must have blown the ultimate beforehand and forced Sadi to flash, which then made that setup all the easier as Svene.
It's going to be knocked away. Nice flash from him to make sure that the ultimate sees him to safety rather than to death, and will be able to walk out with his life intact. Snille is looking towards the dive, though. Wave is crashing in. It's got a cannon there, but I don't know if Graves is going to be able to do too much with a wave coming in for the Shen. Thinking about it, certainly they're getting the taunt down onto Lundqvist. It needs to be careful, and now I think it's more of a defensive dive as Snille moves forward. A lot of damage comes down, and there's collateral damage for the finish. Will march away burning, but doesn't go down. And Sadie in the box doesn't like taking damage on screen, but takes the last shot on it. And it's another kill for Yoppa.
Yeah, Yoppa is just smashing this 2v2.
Damage down onto the virus. Fatty P's there too as clock starts to go away. Don't know if either of them will survive. Yoppa goes down. Riles here for the assist. Picks up one himself, the revenge kill, but it's going to be a 2-for-1 in the play. As Raul could only grab Rakan's ultimate. They can't catch him out.
All right, so Lightside, they make it to the bottom side play, but again, they're just second to the mark, unfortunately. Yoppa is really getting the best of Sadi in this 2v2. And I mean, this is why I called out for the Jhin and the Varus ban. Varus definitely post remembering that champion existed, but still, this is kind of why you can soak up all the pressure on the top side, because you've always got the Shen, and it's just fog of war. And definitely the response is quite nice, but I think big issue there was almost cast from Sadie. And it means that the Fevs that were on the floor don't come in to chain the CC, and the damage is dodged out on, unfortunately. Bit of a micro misplay if you're talking about the straight up 2v2, which could have been maybe played a bit better. But then, yes, Victor from the Tribush does run down Yoppa, but is killed. So it takes him a little bit too long as Silas teleports in. Finds that shutdown, 600 gold onto the Silas as well, which means that Mythic is probably pretty close to being finished up. But we're back into another fight.
Clogs has to go golden to survive. It's a 3v2 right now, and the Root will secure the kill onto Clogs. Varus has already gone mid, so he wasn't there to assist. Lightside going to be dropping the Herald down, trying to get as much damage in a few more plates on to Sadie. Want to get some gold into the Zyre and get him rolling. the charge will be secured. Raul should be able to clear this one out before the tower goes down, so they're not going to be able to grab that extra little something. But nice return play from Lightside.
Yeah, nice return play indeed. They at least try to find something, and getting that gold is definitely going to feel quite nice, as Stinley will be found out here. Loads of on the way pings, and I think Stinley gonna have to take a way out, but touches here with and that Stand United gets cast.
Dive on through, picks up 2. The damage is massive, and easily Clock's gonna flay back, but the charge comes in as Clock's trying to get away. Will be able to do so because Silas is a big enough threat to dissuade any further play. Lundqvist on the top side just trying to get some pressure, but that's what we need to see from this Lightside composition.
Yeah, exactly. You need to use the Shen armor as aggressively as possible. Yes, this is technically a capitalization on Nativ's play, though. That's maybe the counter argument. Still, Lightside able to get to these places in time to punish oversteps. Stinley getting a little bit too overconfident, perhaps because of his individual lead. And Lundqvist should be able to make out. This is the phase rush in the Everfrost, and he will pick up first tower for himself before the plates fall. So that's a lot of gold actually in the Gragas' back pocket. And even though this is likely going to sort of divulge into a bit of a more bruisery build from Lundqvist, still the option to go, you know, something like Zhonya's second. And you will keep that AP stack, and actually just picked up the tier now, 40 minutes into the game. So if it's going to be Fimbulwinter eventually, it will take some time to stack up to that. And that Fiendish Codex does say to me is likely going to be a Zhonya's second. From the Gragas and Ocean will be the Rift and Soul, as Native did pick up that Cloud. As Yoppa, on a fully charged arrow, already dealing 362 damage. There's one scary, scary Varus.
Looking for more, just keeping Zadia good distance away. Just you playing to that range, playing to that advantage, and Lundqvist as Svene in the top. So again, we haven't talked too much about these top laners, but you just went through a couple of the build options, which is always nice to hear. His touch moving in. You'll see if they can catch Yoppa out, because of course Varus has flash and heal, but you really want to get rid of those before you can make the killing play, as it were, because of course those are massive safety nets. But for bot lane from Lightside, they haven't really been able to do too much, and you know what? Lundqvist's not able to do too much right now either. He's in a 2v1, he's got a couple of tools, looking for that ultimate, trying to waddle away, but probably won't be able to do so as the Ignite and the red buff will help secure the kill, and it's going to go over to Zvictor.
Yep, nice little pick on the side of Lightside towards Lundqvist, who's just kind of waddling around, to be honest. Not too much to say. Nativz maybe a little bit lost on what to do right now from the top side position, as that's going to be Featherstorm blown at basically the cost of the Chains of Corruption. We spoke about that ultimate trade in draft. You can see 6 minutes, 60 seconds rather, sorry, on the cooldown of the Chains of Corruption already. But on the opposite side, the Featherstorm, that's going to be at least 2 minutes yet. A minute 50, as the range difference here between these two AD carries really starting to rear its head into the matchup, as Snilly is going to be spotted out, and I mean, could get bursted down.
Many people are going to damage down, goes over the wall with the cloud of damage, is still stunned, but Lundqvist is there, so it'll be a 2v2, but that's not a very healthy looking Graves. Svene has moved up as well, but you can see Raul is doing the same. Going to be able to munch on some snacks, get himself back to fighting fitness, and could look to move on through to try and grab this second Herald. It looks like Lightside have been all but dissuaded, as this objective should go the way of Nativz, but there are still people vaguely in the neighborhood, but it looks like Lightside have decided against contesting, as Yoppa should be able to pick up first tower down, well, second tower, first tower on the bot side for Nativz.
Yeah, should be what's going on here though. Yoppa
a lot of trouble
is yeah.
I think this is probably going to be a kill. No one's coming for you, Yoppa. You've got no help, and that's going to be a kill. But in the mid lane,
solo bowler,
it's like, cool, that's fine. We'll just secure one mid-side 1v1. You can 3v1 our marksman to your heart's content. And Nativz actually might be looking up towards this top side. Clocks is hanging around, maybe looking for a death sentence over the wall. But Svene, playing around his minions very effectively, throws down the Graves, brings him with as he puts that Rift-held mid to assist Silas even further. And this is some nice play around the map from Nativz. They're going to be able to secure the objective. A second charge isn't off the cards. It will actually go through. That's a lot of damage going on into that inner tower. And we can check in 17 minutes on the clock as the play dissipates. And 4,000, 3,500 to the good for Nativz right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of gold to be ahead at this moment in the game. A lot of the lead mid lane, in the bottom lane as well. most of this gold. The difference is forming Lundqvist as well. And let's not forget, picked up an entire tower and its plates by himself. So up 1,000 individually on Svene. I mean, it does still strike me as a bit of a head-scratching decision not to focus on Yoppa's champion pool on the bottom side. This replay, Ryle, yeah. Just one-shots 5p. It has the Hecarim moment. Great chains to find the solo kill, of course. 5p did kind of tee him up quite nicely for it, has to be said as well.
Lundqvist looking to try and get a play going, but
Needs to be careful.
does touch is moving up, and so's the Hecarim. There's Victor riding on through, and you know what? He's not even winning the 1v1 that convincingly. Gets the ultimate down to give himself some space, but ring, it's Pony. And it looks like Victor might be able to run him down, grab himself the kill. Took a little bit longer than expected, but we'll be able to secure that one in the end. Lundqvist just a little bit overextended. He's already taken that top tower. Didn't really have much right to beat there.
Yeah, and again, a second time, Lundqvist kind of died in a very similar position, where Nativz, they're definitely doing the correct thing on the map most of the time, but it just feels like in these sort of moments where I used to call it dead time when I was a coach, where there wasn't quite yet something to prepare for on the map. In this case, this kind of a weird border between he died about a minute before the dragon spawn, so it shouldn't really be dead time anymore, but there's nothing on the map to really play for. You try and figure out lane assignments, gets very difficult to find positioning.
He's going to be able to charge out using that ultimate, but Nativz thinking about chasing on through, get the damage down from Joppa, but won't be enough to secure the kill. But it will be enough to move members of the Lightside back towards that tower. Lundqvist again takes the unleashed power to the face. Still half health, which is always nice, but we'll need to be careful about touch. The wall comes down, but the dragon may well be the prize for Nativ's ambition, as it looks like this one goes uncontested and sets themselves up for Soul Point in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, they will set themselves up for Soul in a couple of minutes' time, and that's going to be a bit of a ticking time bomb now for Lightside to work with. And as I was saying before we had that pick onto Zvictor, these moments of dead air, when there's not really too much to play for, it does feel like Lundqvist's positioning on the side lanes in this game in particular hasn't been too stellar, so maybe Lightside could look to maybe abuse it and grant themselves a window of opportunity towards an objective post that pick. And now that the Baron is on the map, that's going to be a little bit difficult, because then let's say you go for a pick onto the bottom side, who do you have to send? Probably Svene, maybe Touch, and Zvictor. You need another damage dealer with the Shen at the very least. So if you go for that pick, all of a sudden Gragas wastes like 5, 10, maybe even 15 seconds of your time. Svene can always make it back over to the opposite side of the map, but Nativz Baron, it should be relatively quick this early on into the game, because Joppa and Snille are so damn fed. 2 items already on both those carries. Graves deals, you know, typically you'd think like a lot of those damage over time champions, they're the ones that deal like a lot of damage to the Baron. Right? The on-hit champions as well, anything with percent HP. Graves deals a deceptive amount of damage to Baron.
Well,
Especially when you have
those bullets in, can't he?
Yeah, because you're hitting all of the pellets, and then, you know, if you have crit in your build, like in this case, there's that weird there's weird maths numbers which I can't remember off the top of my head how they work, but it's a crit, so it makes it deal more damage. It's as simple as that. 5p could be in danger, but maybe this just turns into a bit of a 2v2 instead.
Have the lantern. A bit of a long journey, but he's going to be fine with taking it. Gets himself a good book on his way out, and Victor wasn't able to find anything there. Question for me now, actually, we're going to have a little bit of a, you know, a scuffle in the bot lane. I don't think it's going to come to very much. Svene having the better of the initial exchange, but Lundqvist able to turn it around a little bit on the way out. Victor's been playing very, very well this game. You look at the scoreline, you look at what he's been able to achieve across the map. However, the neutral objectives have not been falling the way of Lightside. Adip needs to be very careful. He's loading up, but will get stunned onto the chains are there, and it's one shot from Snille. He makes it count.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of that reason, Will, is they didn't really have a bot side to play towards. Not even necessarily to the fault of Sadie and Touch. I think it's just more or less Joppa and Clocks are playing the matchup how it should be played, but also playing it exceptionally well. Clocks has stepped away for a moment, and this is given a window for Joppa to get picked off.
Yeah, not going to be able to play very well from the Death Realm.
Oh, Joppa burned his flash right before he died too. On the very last frame he died, so that's flash off of Joppa, despite that being a pretty free pick. And now Lundqvist is in trouble, and this is what I was saying, Will.
But why are you there, Gragas? There's just no need. He's going to go golden to buy a little bit of time, of course, with that Zhonya's hourglass, but the lantern was not going to have the range, and Sadie picks up another Maybe. Because maybe Nativz are giving a route back into the game for Lightside as they take the kill lead.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying. It just feels like Nativz, when there's dead time, there's nothing that they actually want to play towards on the map. They just seem a little bit wonderish right now. A little bit too all over the place. Not really moving on the map with intent. Even if there are no neutral objectives, you always have something to play towards, whether it's jungle camps, towers. Something where you can definitely build some kind of formation on it. It just feels like Nativz, they're not doing that particularly too well. When there's a dragon spawn on the map, great. The setup is there. It's perfect. Nearly. I don't like using that word too often. But they make things happen. Like for example, we're moving out of dead time, right? About 75 seconds before the dragon spawns. What are they doing? They're setting up and cleaning away vision from the river. Now all of a sudden, if you toggle this to light side vision, it's just that ward on the chicken camp. They are entirely blind down here. There's actually, I take that back. There's a cheeky ward below the dragon pit. But even then, how much is it really providing in terms of info when you're maybe working out of the mid lane wave? The Ultra is not too much, and now they will have this opportunity to try and build some kind of foundation in the river itself, and maybe a shallow line of vision into Nativz jungle. And it will just turn into a bit of a pendulum in terms of that ward battle, that vision battle. That window now has closed for Lightside, where there's nothing on the map for Nativz to play towards. This is where Nativz, time and time again, they actually shine in these team fights at moments like this. 5P takes a nasty chunk.
Lundqvist is thinking about going for the engage because he often decides. Silas running around there as well, looking for something to touch. It's going to speed everyone up as they move away, playing around their pockets of vision. Lightside getting a lot of respect. We're going to be grabbing the Hecarim ultimately. You've already seen how much that can do on Silas this game, and now touching the back of the pit. It's going to get caught out. Lundqvist misses the regard, slides right on by. The Nativz are going to start up the objective. This is sole if they can secure, and with Ocean, that would make team fighting much, much easier for them. You can see Lundqvist around the side. You can see Silas. They're just corralling them in, making sure they can only go through certain routes, as Victor is going to be hit up with the Shen ultimate. Lundqvist in the backside gets a lot of damage down. Fatty P explodes, and now they're looking on two separate fronts around the dragon. Victor's riding through, trying to get onto Yoppa, goes low, could go down, maybe he doesn't have flash, Snilly could be the next target. Fails to flash over the wall, and Lightside are winning the fight on that front. Meanwhile, Ral and Lundqvist looking to try and take down Touch. They've already taken down one, but bot lane and the mid lane are dead. Clocks is looking to escape, hits a nice death sentence, and the team collapses back in towards him, but it's going to be a corpse that they're fighting over because he's already gone down. Victor goes low. Bot's out of it. Now it's just Vene trying to look towards the wall. Tries to get over it. Will be able to get over it. Flashes, but doesn't go over the wall. It doesn't matter because the chains don't hit. Nativz, they win the fight by a hair, but it doesn't matter because they get the objective.
Exactly, they get the objective. That's a permanent buff, that Ocean Salt. The fight, even though Lightside pick up a couple of kills, they lose more than they gain. Unfortunately, they are now going to be playing at a pretty big disadvantage. Quite a few bruisers on the side of Nativz are going to really enjoy that regen off the Ocean Dragon. And like you called out in the play-by-play, it's a fight on two fronts. It's Yoppa getting dove on by the Hecarim, and I actually couldn't quite catch who the diving buddy was. But it starts off Clocks, gets the flay into the box, and that Standing Knight has to come down to defend the Hecarim. Touch goes in for the dive, and I think that's who's going with him, Svene as well. On the backside, Syndra gets just deleted by Lundqvist and Relay. And they go for the chase down onto the Lovers Duo into the red side, and on the top side of the map, Snilly just makes a bit of an oopsie, goes over the blast cone. Maybe not expecting to get so close into the faces of Svene and into the Hecarim, and just dies a little quicker than he was potentially expecting. As, let's see, get here. Unfortunately, can't quite save Clocks' life. The redemption, a couple more frames would definitely saved his behind. And Svene does just about manage to get over the wall with another taunt. It was quite a close one, taunt flash actually. Saves his life.
Once again, up in the face of Shen, just saying, yeah, you're doing a bit of damage to me. I'm just going to put a little bit back on the way out, and we'll be able to walk. Putting on the redemption, actually, for the heal.
Oh. I take that back. It's Svene's redemption. I thought it was Clocks's. I thought why would I think that? Why would Supports never get more than 2 items, man? What's this?
When, you know, Shen, like, he's a global boy. Mr. Worldwide. Has to get the redemption down as well.
That's really interesting. I'm going to have to get some Shen experts on the phone. I definitely recall...
They definitely have phones.
There was a... That's true. There was a time where redemption was actually quite good for Shen as a second item. As said, he gets hooked, poked out a little bit, but nothing too crazy because obviously the Standing Knight is a massive shield, and Redemption has is 20% increased heal and shield power. So it's actually relatively valuable, especially when you consider how cheap it is. You ult down, you bring the Redemption down on top of the person that you ulted onto, or if you're in range for that Redemption whilst you're channeling as well, that's also additionally very good. And of course, I'm not sure about the exact cost efficiency of the item itself, but it is very cheap. As you can see, Svene has 3 completed items, like Lundqvist, despite Lundqvist's items being, I think, in total gold, definitely quite a bit more expensive. And Nativz, with this lead they have, and thank you for the vision toggle read, we'll start this Baron. And Svictor is here and could get in range for a steal, but will he actually get in range is the
I mean, Lundqvist's cutting off
question.
one damage down on Desire. They're going to be forcing out the ultimate stand. United, the Shen moves on through, but now Lightside are here as 5. They're coming through both choke points, and now it's on Yopper to stay alive. He gets engaged on by Svictor. Can he do it? He's marching back, has the flash in the end. The Baron goes down. It's secured by Nativz as they manage to pick up Zarya as well. Ra looking forward, will be able to pick up one. It's onto the Shen, putting down the Redemption. Will it keep him alive? It will keep him alive a second longer as Lundqvist in the backline is doing a lot of work. Snille moving forward. This time around, he's part of the winning part of the team fight as he shoots down another. It's just Hecarim alive. Victor rides off, but Baron onto all 5 members, and they all survive for Nativz.
Yeah, and they could maybe run it down mid. I wouldn't quite say end the game with 20 seconds left, but Inhibitor is definitely on the cards at the very least. Svene, 5p, 30 seconds. Victor's still farming the jungle because he feels like they're going to lose a lot anyway. How far will Nativz go? Because we've definitely seen Nativz overreach in positions like this before, and the death timers are quite lengthy, but I think Papa Demb has probably disciplined them enough on moments like these. And it seems like Nativz will just back away with Baron buff in hand as that Elder Dragon spawns in just over a minute's time, and they're probably just going to want to play for that. Set up the vision on the bottom side with this reset and ensure that the setup will always be in their favor. Lightside will always have to check into Fog of War. And for Nativz, definitely a much shakier game than we expect if you're going off the expectations of the earlier split performances we've seen, but still very much on character. And I hope for them moving into playoffs that we can see a little more consistency from them in terms of dropping all of these deaths. Definitely been something to criticize for Nativz.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of overextension here and there, maybe some mispositioning, maybe using resources at inopportune moments. In order to not give yourself the best opportunity to use them when it really matters. But that being said, they have been pretty consistent when it comes to the actual team fighting, which is always a great mark for this team. Lightside need to be good at team fighting this time around, though, because we've got Elder Dragon up in 10 seconds. If that goes down to Nativz, you've got to imagine that fighting is going to become nigh on impossible. But Lundqvist on the side was looking for a flank, but gets caught himself. He's going to be unleashed. Down, going over to Fanny P on the Syndra. Elder Dragon, it's a 4v5 now. Things are a little bit easier for Lightside as they feel comfortable to move on for his today on the side of looking to get damage on low, but it won't get the kill as he looks to slide down onto Svictor. He's leading the charge rail on this side, going to be called out by Svene. Touch is still in the fray as Victor riding on through gets into the heal from the Redemption. It looks like we're going to see the Rakan looking to reset, but he's actually moving back on forward because Nativz have started up the Elder Dragon. Members of Lightside are still there. They want to dissuade, they want to dissipate, they want to grab it for themselves potentially. But in the base, we've got Elder, we've got big minions in the base. They're causing some damage. Nativz look for the death sentence. Landed on. Let's get the play back. Jobber gets a bit of damage down. Silas is in the base. But that's a big snipe onto Hecarim. Lightside have to move away, but they're just losing members left, right, and center. Bill turns around and shoots another. It's a triple. It could be more. The quadra for Graves as they march towards the Nexus.
They're going to march towards the Nexus, and Nativz, they want to keep this first place race alive, and Snille,
he's
could be signing this
knocked in. The rest of the team is going to assist. Will it be getting the shots down, doing everything he can? But Svene doesn't want to give it. The lantern comes down. Pentakill for Snille on the Graves as Nativz will book themselves a ticket to second place at the very least as they dismantle Lightside.
Lightside picked apart, start to finish, it feels like. And there just wasn't enough proactivity, unfortunately. Nativz, in the moments we expect from them, those big team fights around these neutral objectives, they do their job and they will secure second or higher for them moving into the final day of games, playing with their food on the fountain. So the Nexus will fall And all of a sudden, that playoff race feels a lot more exciting.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because you look at it, it's like, hey, top two locked in. The two teams below them locked into those positions. We don't know exactly what the metric is going to be. Nativz could still win the league. We could still see Rate or Flung getting third or fourth, depending on. But Lightside losing here, we're going to be seeing Domino and Lucent play each other later. So one of those teams is going to go above them. Dundee United win today. Suddenly they're drawing with Lightside. Verdant could put themselves within one win of equaling that out as well with a win in their game against London United. So only one of those teams can do that. But suddenly, your Lightside, you're looking at 4 teams around you. 2 of those teams are guaranteed to win today because of the way that we're seeing fixtures. So not a great position going into the final day of games for them. But honestly, we talked a little bit negatively about Nativz in that game in part, saying they overextended a little bit. But when push came to shove during the big team fights, during the times it mattered, they always came out on top.
Yeah, and that seems to always be the key thing about Nativz a lot of the times is in most of their games, when it really matters, they step up, whether it's an individual, whether it's the entire team. They always do manage to, show that they are capable of playing very strong League of Legends. They understand how they have to play out team fights. Even in that final Dragon fight right there, they lost Lundqvist right before they actually, started to sort of jostle for position in front of the pit itself. And it didn't really end up mattering too much. They already had that pressure from the mid lane. Yes, so you can argue it was technically a 4v4 anyway, but the fact that they were still able to leverage that pressure from the mid lane and then turn it back into a 4v4 with the Standing Knight still being there as an option for Lightside just kind of shows that they are a very strong team that they can find opportunities like that.
Throughout the split, they've shown exactly how good they can be. We're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, we're going to have our first interview of the evening. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.